Welcome to SNNLive. We're broadcasting from our studio here in Los Angeles, California. I'm Robert Kraft, and today on the program we have Steve Promnitz from Lake Resources. It's a publicly traded company. I got two symbols for you, LKE on the ASX and LLKKF in the US. Steve, welcome to SNNLive.
Great to be here, thank you.
It's great to have you. So for our audience, let's start off with an overview of the company and then we'll go from there.
Lake Resources is focused on lithium from South America, Argentina. The world is split up with half of the world's lithium coming from Western Australia out of hard rock and the other from salt lakes in the north of Chile and Argentina. That's where we are in what we call the lithium triangle. Our intention is to extract lithium efficiently at a low cost and send that to Asia for batteries for electric cars. That's the growth in China and in Europe.
So Steve, let's get a history of the company. When did it start and how did it develop to where it's currently at today?
Lake Resources has been around since the late 1990s, but in its current form since early 2016 when we put together these lithium projects in Argentina. We could see that there was a real opportunity on the upstream end with electric vehicles. We put these projects together, we defined a resource, we're about to finish a pre-feasibility study, and with that we'll be producing high quality product into the Asian market.
Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned that, most lithium or all lithium comes from either Australia or parts of South America. Mm-hmm. So what would you say makes Lake Resources different and unique when compared to your peers out there?
That's a great question. Thank you, Robert. What Lake Resources is doing is it has already a large resource on its Cachi project in Argentina. We have two other projects which are well advanced, but that just positions us like many other lithium brine producers or developers in South America. What makes us different is that we're using technology out of California to be able to develop and extract the lithium efficiently and cheaply and to produce a high purity product, which is what the end user wants. At the moment, there's been a range of purities coming out of Australia and out of South America. By having a new process which is efficient, it takes just the lithium out of the brine, out of the salty water. We re-inject the rest of the water so it doesn't have an environmental footprint. And we also produce a high purity product, which is exactly what the cathode makers and the battery makers now want. Because as battery density has changed, the qualities have improved, they need high purity products.
So I have to ask, and forgive my ignorance potentially, here is, so none of your peers are using technology to try and make the lithium that they're pulling out more pure? And if so, why are you guys the only ones using this technology?
Well, if we're in mining, oil and gas, or in our space, new energy, nobody wants a new player. Normally when you see the word new, people go, I don't really want that. Plus, there's always an oligopoly. There's always 3, 5, 6 companies that control the supply. So the last thing they want is a new technology, something that's disruptive that's going to change it. So you've got to step up to the plate. We've decided, after checking about 13 different direct extraction methods, that this one provided by Lilac Solutions out of Oakland, California, looks to be quite efficient. And we're doing that to be ahead of the curve because we think that the industry will probably move that way. But by being ahead of the curve, having a large asset, demonstrating how this can produce high quality lithium more efficiently, we'll be ahead of the curve. So we end up with a technology play, we end up being in new energy, and we end up also working very carefully with and closely with the battery makers because they also want to produce a high quality ethical product for the electric vehicle makers.
Right. And one more follow-up on the technology itself. You mentioned that, in Australia you extract lithium from more hard rock versus South America where it's, pulled out of the salt lakes. I mean, is there an application for hard rock as well using your technology, or is it just
hard rock, what we call spodumene, it's like any other mining. Essentially, you dig a hole, there's a particular product you're after, it's these large white grey crystals, you pull them out, you concentrate them, ship it off to East China, and they make it normally into lithium hydroxide for going into batteries. That's one particular processing route. We've just looked at where a low-cost, high-quality, scalable product, they're the lithium brines, because all we're doing is water treatment. All we want to do is just take the lithium out. We're using something called ion exchange. It's a technology that's been around for 50, 60 years. What's great about Lilac is they've just come up with an ion exchange bead, a little pellet that works around like a Pac-Man and takes out all of that lithium in the space of 2 hours instead of waiting around for 9, 18 months for the water to evaporate. Plus, we just take the lithium out and re-inject the rest of the fluid so we don't have a big environmental footprint. It's going to completely disrupt and change the industry, and we're just going to be one of the first to show how it's going to work.
Sounds good. So I also have to ask, whenever we have junior mining companies on the program, we want to know about the geopolitical situation where you're doing your operations. So tell us what's going on in Argentina.
Look, here's the thing with Argentina. It is a roller coaster. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it isn't. We can't gild the lily. That's how Argentina is. But I think it's salient to mention that out of the last lithium boom we had, back when people were thinking that laptops and mobile phones were going to be large consumers, that was around 2006, 2007. The only major producer who came from exploration and development into production was actually in Argentina, a company called Orocobre. So it shows that they're focused on getting lithium happening. And with the government that's just coming in, they're going to be installed in December. Our team's already had discussions with them. They're very focused on seeing export incomes into the country. So while it's a concern perhaps from a market sentiment perspective, certainly operationally there's no real change.
Right. And what's your background? I mean, how'd you come into all this?
So for my sins, I come from a science background. My first degree was a double major in geology and chemistry. So I worked for mining companies, energy companies for 15 years. Then I did finance. I worked for banks and broking houses for 7 years, and then came back to sort of mining and energy again. And with our chairman and some of our shareholders, we saw an opportunity in 2015, 2016 in the electric vehicle market. And we looked across the whole value spectrum and saw an opportunity in upstream. I'd worked in Argentina, Chile, Peru, Brazil in the past, back in the 90s, so I had good contacts, and that was the reason. And it's an opportunity. Hey, I can talk to millennials again. My girls were thinking I was some clapped out old dinosaur. I can actually, talk the good oil about electric vehicles and what's going to change the world.
So then from what you can tell us, what are some of the company's growth drivers now going into 2020? We're pretty much at the end here at 2019, so let's hear that.
Okay. As we look forward, there's some key catalysts as we go into the future. So this new process, because it's new, everybody wants to make absolutely certain it works. That's fine. We're quite confident about it, so we're building a pilot plant. Now, this pilot plant, it's quite sizable. Each vessel stands 4.5 meters high. We've got 2 of those already built in California. Once we've got 6 of them, we'll export those out to Argentina to produce samples on site. So those samples, then we send those to the potential off-takers, South Korea, Japan, China. And we've got about 6 of them at the moment, and they're all quite keen to receive those samples. They run them through a qualification process, and then they go, right, this is the product that we're looking for. Let's sign up off-take agreements, and then we can put financing around it. Indicatively, we're going to be sending those samples out February, March, April, so they will take a little while to get processed, and then there'll probably be financing around that. That's going to be a pretty major change because we're going to move from a developer into pre-production and into financing for future production. And then the next thing that comes with that is that as that progresses, we'll probably then move our pilot plant to one of our other projects, perhaps even before we define a resource, and show what's going on. One of our other projects, Kaohsiung, it's literally within seeing distance of a major company called Ganfeng out of China. They recently paid nearly $400 million US to buy half of the project, which is 500 meters away from us. So if we can put a pilot plant and show we can operate there, that'll also put a cat amongst the pigeons. So it's going to be pretty exciting, 2020.
And Steve, where can our audience go and find more information about Lake Resources?
So our website, Lake Resources, LAKE Resources with an S.com.au. And you can also email me on Steve, STEVE, at lakeresources.com.au. I'm happy to take any calls, any emails. You'll find their research, you'll find our presentations, and all of our public releases.
My name is Robert Kraft, and we're coming to you live on SNNLive, and we're broadcasting from our studios here in Los Angeles, California. With me again has been Steve Promnitz from Lake Resources, publicly traded company. I got 2 symbols for you, LKE on the ASX and LLKKF in the US. Steve, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Cheers.